Startups based on digital technology platforms are known as startups have thrived in the last decade. Moreover, after the emergence of Gojek and Bukalapak, who managed to take advantage of opportunities by offering new lifestyle trends that are more practical. So that from being just a startup, Gojek and Bukalapak didn't take long to become unicorns with a company valuation of over 1 billion US dollars. Not only in Indonesia, both of them have also spread their wings to the Southeast Asian market at this time. Those who have large capital, of course, are eager to recruit employees in the hope of following in Gojek footsteps. Like a tit for tat, their optimism grew stronger during a pandemic when all activities were carried out at home through digital devices. But at the end of 2021, a storm hit a number of startup companies that had to carry out mass layoffs. This is done as an improvisation so that the company can continue to adapt and be in tune with market dynamics and industry trends in Indonesia. First thing first, what is layoff? A layoff is an involuntary separation from work through no fault of employees, often initiated by the employer for economic reasons to cut costs. A layoff differs from a firing for cause such as unacceptable workplace behavior, which generally does not qualify the fired worker for unemployment insurance. So why is there a wave of mass layoff in Indonesian startup companies? Several startups operating in Indonesia laid off their employees starting in early 2022, spanning GDID, Zenius, Tanihub, Lingaja, Pahamify, and Mobile Premier League, or MPL. The startup strategy of reducing these employees is often associated with the bubble burst phenomenon, which not only happened in Indonesia but also globally. According to Rija Wirjan, Executive Vice President at Gejora Capital, the wave of layoff that occurs at startup is common as part of the business cycle. Besides the layoff, startups are facing valuation correction as well. The issues may lead the startup bubble to leak or burst onward, but Rich stated that this time is too early to justify. So, what factor cause startup companies to fail? Like a business, the more player, the stronger the competition. Of course, there will be a selection. If you don't innovate, it is certain that startup companies will go out of business. A recent study conducted by CodeSF 2022 shows an astonishing number because 9 out of every 10 startups that are established will experience failure in continuing their business. The study also showed 70% of them experience failure within 10 years after standing. For a period of 5 years, the failure rate is 50%, and for the second year, it is 30%. Kotasif stated that the news about the failure of startups in various countries is no longer surprising news. However, the number of startups that go out of business in a short period of time is actually more interesting to study. According to Euromonitor reports, global inflation is projected to reach 7.9% in 2022 and toward 5% in 2023. Compared with the 2001 and 2019 average annual global inflation of 3.8%. The trend of global inflation tends to increase since early 2022 along with the Russia and Ukraine were exacerbating the supply chain complexities and commodity price squeeze. As stated in Sequoia's presentation titled Adapting to Endure, compared to the current inflation, the increasing long-term expectation for inflation is more crucial. The bond market revealed that 5-year forward inflation expectations are at the highest level in the decades. At the moment, investors from venture capital are more selective in distributing funds and considering the global economic condition. There are many considerations before distributing funds, and including startup strategy such as cash burn. Investors prefer founders who are more deliberate in deploying the funds rather than solely burning the gas. The current decline in investment disbursements is relatively similar to what happened at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. According to Richie Wijaya, in 2022, funding for its Indonesian startup reached around 3.3 billion US dollar, deployed around 100 investment. In 2021, the number rose to 5.3 billion US dollars. About 200 deals that occur in Indonesia are almost double from the previous year, with an increase of funding of around 16%. The COVID-19 pandemic has shown the double-sided coin. For the investor, it is time to measure how well the business performed by managing the startup fundamental wells, clear operation, and transparent code. Meanwhile, for the funders, this is an opportunity to show how well the company survived during the storm. Those who don't have strong fundamentals will likely to fail. The moment doesn't mean the end of the startup, particularly those who are the quickest to adapt to the new game. Rather than making a fuss of the issues, it's better for the founders of startup to maintain their business nicely by operating the business line more efficiently and retaining growth to go through these two conditions. The storm is signaling the proper time to save the startup strategy. Cash burn becomes irrelevant. Before the COVID-19 pandemic, many startups applied the strategy of cash burn to acquire users, which further made it easier to obtain investment. The strategy may work for some companies as long as they also bring strong value and maintain startup fundamental well. It is called the hype growth phase, which describes a rapid increase in valuation without being followed by equivalent fundamental performance. At present, the cash burn strategy may become irrelevant since the investor will question the hype valuation, which are likely to be unreasonable, while the business is underperforming. The investor, as well as Richie Wijaya, prefer companies with reasonable valuation but very well performing. These companies can gain stable earnings, making them have a longer runway. The competition to obtain funding comes to be tighter as venture capital may reduce the number of investment. The kind of approach is taken by Kijora Capital. For example, if the venture capital has $100 million, now it will invest only in 1,000 companies, from previously more than 10,000 companies. Investor consideration in assessing startups. Despite the tougher competition, VCs are still actively investing. There are some factors considered by investors in assessing startups to be invested in. First, investors will look at the funders to find out the reason for choosing the problem to be solved and how big the opportunity is to be able to solve it. This factor is commonly used for screening early-stage funding such as pre-seed or Series A. Second, investors will examine the product market fit aligning with the idea and background of the company. During the tough market, the company doesn't have much time to conduct product trial and error as it has to extend the runway. Therefore, the product market fit must be sharp and accelerated from the beginning. After that, measuring the performance will be the next factor to consider in granting investment. Entering Series B, and third, the investor will observe the economic unit and its potential for development. The element of risk is likely different when assessing either from the initial stage or at the further stage. In conclusion, it is optimistic that Indonesian startup will survive the tough condition by shifting to a more relevant startup strategy. Investors, not only from Indonesia, but also many from abroad, are exploring opportunities because they know Indonesia is a big market. There are even overseas startups targeting Indonesia for expansion of the tempting market potential. Those who have strong fundamentals, founder with relevant backgrounds, solid teams, and clear business operation will be successful.